Welcome back to your functions packet. We are going to be discussing page 1 and page 2 in this video. Let's get ready to review some notes about what makes a relation a function. Our learning target states, I can identify the domain, that's all your x values, and range, that's all your y values, of a relation. Let's read. A relation is a set of input or output values written as an ordered pair. A relation can be represented by a table or a graph. Let's take a look at the ordered pairs we've been given. Underline ordered pairs. We know the domain is made up of all the x values. Remember, x is first, y, of course, is second. Circle all the x values. They make up the set called the domain. All the y values, place a square around all the y values. 3, 2, -1, and +1. All those values make up the range. So, when you're given ordered pairs, the domain set is made up of all the x's. The range is made up of all the y's. The same is true in a table of values. Your x's are your domain. Your y values given in the table are your range values. And the same is true on a coordinate plane. The x values live here, and the members of the domain are x values. The y values live here, and they make up the members of the range. Now, let's take a look at a quick activity down below where we have to identify the set of numbers that is the domain and the set of numbers that is the range. Down below, it states, state the domain and the range of the relation. So as we look at letter A, our domain is made up of, circle please, -4, 3, 2, -1, 6, and 9. We can list this set of numbers down below. Take a moment and list all the input values or your x values known as the domain. The range is made up of all the y values. That would be 7, 8, please put a box around these values, -9, 5, 3, and -2. Please list your range values on the line that's marked range. Now complete the rest of the problems on this page. Pause the video, and when you're ready to check your work, turn the video back on. Please check your work. When you're ready, turn the page, and let's talk about the information on page 2. What makes a relation a function? On page 2, we're going to look at when is a relation a function. Remember, for your input values or your x values in the domain, they are allowed to only have one favorite output value. If that's the case, it's a function. Let's take a closer look at what we're given here. We've been given a table of values. X is our input values or our domain values, and the Y's, well, they're our output values. Next, we've been given those values written as ordered pairs. And lastly, we've been given a graph. We can take these ordered pairs and graph them. Pause the video and take a moment and graph the following ordered pairs. Pause the video. Now let's take a look and see if this relation is a function. As we take a look at our table of values, we can see that 2 has an output or a favorite of 1. 3 has a favorite of -2. 4, 2, and 5, 1. Each one of these input values has a unique output value. So yes, this is a function. So the same is true for the ordered pairs. Each X only outputs one unique Y value. You can tell because each X only outputs a unique Y. So, by studying the X's and Y's in the table of values and the ordered pairs, you can see that this is a function as well. On the graph, you can see that if you look at your X values, they only have one unique Y value. There is a test we can run known as the vertical line test that will prove that each X only has one unique Y. If you take and drop a vertical line through an X of 2, you can see we only have one output for that input value. If you drop a vertical line at 3, again, you can see that there's only one output value for that particular input value. And you can run the vertical line test all the way down the graph. This vertical line test will come in handy later as we test to see if different equations graphed on a coordinate plane actually are functions. But this is called the vertical line test. So yes, this is a function as well. Let's take a look at what we're given below. We are given a table of values, some ordered pairs from that table, and on the graph, let's graph these ordered pairs that we've been given. Let's graph our first ordered pair, 2, -1, go over 2, down -1. Then our second point, over 3, up 2. Our third, over 2, up 1. And our last point in the relation, over 4, up 2. Now, let's determine if this relation is a function. Let's start with the table of values. If you look at your input values, you see we have here an input of 2, and it outputs a value of -1. But later in the table, we have the same input, and it outputs a different value for Y. 2 cannot have two different favorites or two different output values. Right there, we know that this relation is not a function. No, this is not a function. How does that look with ordered pairs? Well, again, 2 has an output of -1. 2 has an output of +1. Right here is where the failure occurs. 2 cannot have the 2 different favorite output values. So again, no, this is not a function. Now let's look at the graph and run the vertical line test. We can see if we drop a line here at an input value of 4, it only strikes 1 point because the input value of 4 has an output of 2. So it passes the test at that point. However, let's look here at an input value of 2. If you drop a vertical line and it strikes 2 points, that means there are 2 different output values, +1 and -1. So this fails the vertical line test. It strikes more than one output value. So again, no, this is not a function. It fails the vertical line test. Make sure you've taken down all these notes. This concludes the video for pages 1 and 2.